Well, hello again. I am on the path, a trail called Windy Moraine, and I first started out in a huge field, an open field, and now I'm going into the forest, and we'll try to get you a picture of that. Lots of trees, of course, in a forest, but a few trees interspersed, and then beyond those few trees was just plain open field. And this is called the edge effect, where the forest meets with the field. It's a great place for, it's a great habitat for robins, bluebirds, deer, rabbit. Every living thing has a habitat, and we need three major things: shelter, food, and water. And this is an excellent place, as I said, for a variety of living things. You'll see my little backpack there, and this is the path. It's a 1.5 mile loop. It does have quite a bit of steep paths to it. You will overlook Glen Lake at a certain area. There's a few things I'd like to show you, and the rest you will just have to come up here and see for yourself. I'm in some cougar territory, although it's very unlikely I will see any. There used to be wolves, but this is not anymore a good habitat for wolves and bear. So hang with me and we'll see what we can find. Alright, I'm at point 2, where it shows a very, very old apple tree. And this tree was probably brought to this country from Russia, they say, in 1835. Once it was wildly grown here. The trunk is full of sapsucker holes. I don't see how I can get really close in on that. Can you see that at all or not? Anyway, the original habitat for this would be the woodpecker family, and apple trees, we believe, have originated in Asia Minor, or in the mountains of Caucasia, I think I read. They were brought to the New World by European settlers, and today cultivation of apples and other fruits is a very important industry here in northern Michigan. Occasionally, cultivated plants like this suffer from disease, insects, and drought. But scientists then turn to old varieties to seek types that are resistant. Wild plants, or old cultivated varieties, are a reservoir of genetic diversity, and for this reason, it's important to preserve them. Throughout history, many kinds of plants have proven useful to people. Even today, half of prescription medicines contain drugs of natural origin. But unfortunately, we are destroying natural habitat worldwide so rapidly that many species are going extinct before they can be studied to determine potential uses and their role in the natural community. Further along this path, there's a former farm field, and that shows natural process of plant succession is occurring. The first plants probably were raspberries and bushes. Common juniper is often one of the first large plants to grow. And then the first trees to enter that old field would be ones that do well in sunlight, such as poplar, white birch, black cherry. Eventually they will produce so much shade that only seedlings of the more tolerant species, such as maple, oak, ash, can survive. It is very important that we preserve our habitats, our natural habitats, I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to try to find where they have a pine plantation, and we'll catch up with you there. So we'll have to say goodbye to this big old apple tree and go on to new things. Wow, this is quite a strenuous walk. I haven't stopped too much because I've had to use my energy to get up the steep hills and down them. But I've seen a lot of diversity, and it strikes me how important it is to protect and preserve the diversity. In this park, in Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, there's, of course, sand dunes, lakes, rivers, bogs, forest, fields. There's just a huge diversity, and it's just so important that we do everything we can to preserve the various habitats that support this diversity. I think it was in the 60s sometime that Congress passed the Wilderness Act to assure that the growing population and expanding settlement did not eliminate the lands that existed in their natural condition. And parts of this park have been designated as wilderness and are managed as wilderness. And that's very important as we keep that natural diversity to flourish. I've come across this huge pine plantation. There's just all these pines all over, and I know you can't see it good on here, but it's just incredible how high they are, and they're all over here. I think what happened is after loggers cleared the native forest, that means what was here, pine trees were planted, and pine trees pretty much lack variety, and because of that they're more susceptible to the same diseases and insect infestations. So when they plant like one kind of plant, like these pine trees here, that's called monoculture. Another type might be cornfields. It's one type, and a natural plant community is healthier because the greater variety of plant life makes for milder effects of insects or disease. And so the one thing that has struck me on this path is how important it is to have diversity. And one of the things I've noticed here at Sleeping Bear Dunes is it struck me how we have to preserve it, and the beauty of the natural surroundings, but all the more important, I think, to have the habitats preserved. So whatever you can do to see this beauty, but also to protect it, please take steps to do so. I am going to head back down, and I know this was kind of a shorter version. It was kind of a steeper trail for me to walk, but it was only 1.5 miles, still able to get it done. Adults can easily do this, and probably many middle school students as well. Alright, talk to you later. Hey, I gotta interrupt or come back on for one last thing. I'm walking and it's very quiet except for the wind. Maybe that's why they call it windy Moraine. But I heard a woodpecker, and I've done some reading on this trail, and one of the things I read is that of course woodpeckers love the dead old trees because they're a great source of food, and when the loggers came in, we obviously took the natural habitat for the woodpeckers that were then. We have, I think, about, what did I read, 85 different kinds of North American birds that make their home, their habitat, in old hollow trees. So when these old trees are removed, many different kinds of birds are affected. There are many, there's just so many complex interrelationships in the web of life. I am finding that indeed here on my walks in nature, and I can find that definitely to be true in human relationships as well. And when we damage one strand of that web, we weaken the entire web. And it's just something to think about in our natural habitat and in our human relationships.